Hello there, and welcome. This is the first look-see of 2025, and I'm going to be looking at what's coming, especially the attitudes, the outlook, and the changes, the big changes headed our way because it's happening all around us now. You can't miss it. As I was getting ready to do the look-see, I was aware that a lot of what I was seeing had like this theme of restructuring running through it. And so I then stopped and just kind of tuned in and asked, okay, give me a keyword for this month. And when I did that, the word impaled came up along with a vision of an iron spear. Now, I certainly did not expect that. The modern meaning of impale is to pierce or transfix. But the ancient meaning is to enclose, to like keep within certain bounds or to prevent escape, impaled. So I hope we have not gotten ourselves impaled in a system that's not working with our best future in mind. And I have to ask, are we transfixed by something and not paying attention to what we should be paying attention to? Are we piercing the darkness, seeing through the narrative? I don't want to cause stress, but actually any kind of change will cause at least some stress. So the good side of stress, and there is a good side, is that once you see or hear something, then if it does come about later on, you won't be blindsided. It just won't have the same power to upset or unseat you because it will have quietly worked its way through your consciousness. So hang on to your heads. And we are going to end on an upward note. So let's begin. Number one, a lot of people wrote last month to say, oh, please don't stop doing the look-see. Don't quit. And I'm not going to stop. You probably have heard me say that I'm here on a mission to teach the world about the mind and consciousness. So in addition to my regular classes in developing and using intuition, I'm also sharing my perspective in places like this on things and on how I look at the world. So now I think how I see and think about the world is really quite ordinary. And I do have difficulty understanding how it is that other people don't see similar things. So I've come to understand that maybe this is another way to teach. Sometimes what I say is lumped into the conspiracy theory category, but I've often been delighted later to find that I was correct in what I was seeing. And I don't mind being thrown into the conspiracy theory pile because I'm not that concerned about how others see me. I am concerned about how I see myself. And my interest in others has to do with how they see themselves and how they respond to the world around them. I want us all to respond in an intelligent manner that's thoughtful, that maintains the dignity of self and others, and that offers a little laugh now and then. And I want it to be forward-looking and forward-thinking. You know, we Americans are all about freedom, self-sufficiency, and independence. And to maintain those very important characteristics, we need to be always ready for what we see coming or what we see taking shape. So, number two, having brought up the topic of conspiracy theories, let's talk about this for a minute. Here's a quote from a book titled The Unseen Hand. It was written by Ralph Epperson, who says that the traditional explanation of historical events is that they happen by accident. So then he goes on and offers a couple definitions. First one, the accidental view of history says that historical events occur by accident for no apparent reason, and that rulers are powerless to intervene. Well, if they're powerless, what do we need them for? Second, the conspiratorial view of history says that historical events occur by design for reasons that are not generally made known to the people. So, what he's saying is there's a hidden hand in that. So when I say I am not concerned about being thrown into the conspiracy theory pile, it's because the other pile, in which everything is accidental, means that nothing makes sense. Nothing is manageable. Nothing can be planned for or prepared for. And no one has any power to anticipate anything. All we can do is react. However, the conspiracy theory pile says that there are hidden forces, hidden hands, shadowy people with unannounced intentions. And if that's the case, I think we can have some hope. How so? Well, let's talk about the hidden forces. Let's say these forces are based in science. If hidden forces exist, then we are pushed to dig a little deeper into science to understand our world a little bit better and manage things with those forces in mind. What about hidden hands? Let's say the hidden hands are good people trying to help us, but they know that we have to do things for ourselves in order to grow and mature to evolve states of being. So that's encouragement to us to take charge and discover ways to unfold ourselves into wisdom and a better life. What about the shadowy people with unannounced intentions who may have selfish or hurtful goals? That is encouragement to understand humanity across our world and to continue to consider the role of humans across an ever-expanding universe. We learn to see inside ourselves and our brothers and sisters, and we become more humane in doing that. To say that everything is accidental, is all due to chance, is to disempower the people and make humanity's existence pointless. To say that there is conspiracy in the world is to say that there is thinking and planning and intention in the world. It is to bring the human into the fabric of reality and ask him to answer things like who, what, when, where, why, and how. As we move into this year, we will need to consciously and carefully choose our path. Those who avoid certain information because it has been relegated to the conspiracy pile are likely to struggle mightily as they fight to hold on to family, friends, money, lifestyles, education, jobs, everything. They will struggle for existence and to prevent change. Those who take in information that involves or at least considers conspiracy theories are also likely to struggle. But it will be a different kind of struggle. It'll be a struggle to adjust. It will be an effort to shift into a new worldview, to get their minds around new forms of business, new kinds of government, different kinds of work opportunities, new money, a whole different form of education, new family, new friends, relationships. They will be more emotionally prepared than those who dig their heels in and insist the world is going to hell in a handbasket. Don't be afraid of being accused of responding to conspiracy theories or taking them seriously. It's a lot better than believing in a world of accidents and chance where everything is a gamble and you have little say in anything and no opportunity to prepare for anything. Number 3. In Prescott, Arizona, volunteers are working with the sheriff's department. They're helping detectives in the Criminal Investigations Bureau to solve murders that have long gone cold. When I read this, it struck me as the way of the future. People doing something they're interested in, helping their community, and not needing to have a college degree, years of experience, or be officially hired in order to help with some work and be effective. Why has life become so complex and so full of obstacles? People helping people is such a simple thing. We don't all have to be professionals in order to get the job done. This kind of collaboration between those who live in the neighborhood and the institutions that serve them just makes sense. Number 4, the mass deportation effort is already underway, and Trump has not even been inaugurated yet. Sheriffs are getting involved in many counties, and Mexico is planning to open 25 shelters for deported people who've been living in the U.S. illegally. I don't think the government should be handing the illegals money, phones, food, shelter, transportation, and other benefits. That just generates more helplessness and dependency. But at the same time, I find it hard to believe that this program is going to do much good. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would be willing to bet that only a handful of the illegal military-age men will be found and sent anywhere, while hundreds, maybe thousands of good but illegal people will be deported. What are they going to do in Mexico? What if they didn't come from Mexico in the first place? This could all turn into a big mess. Number 5. On January 4th, I went looking to see what I could see, and a few things came up that I thought I would share. I can only summarize those here because this is a video and those are things on paper. But in response to the question, what is in the headlines for January 15th through February 15th? I saw first a city street. Several men were wearing the kinds of uniforms and helmets that you see in the UK. They were looking at some bodies lying in the street and on the sidewalk. There were knives and something that looked like swords lying among the bodies. I had the impression that the police were in shock and they just did not know what to do in the situation. I could hear big cries, and the words that came to me were gang, knives, machetes, revolt, police helpless. And I had the feeling that this was going to be a big turning point for England. Like it was one, I'm going to call it mass murder too many, or one more over the line, or something of that sort. So I cleared that scene and repeated the question. What's in the headlines for January 15th to February 15th? And in the scene that opened, I saw a man sitting at a tall desk with a hammer or gavel, and I heard the words, "You are ordered to report to," And I heard the words Trump, fight, jail, court, and inauguration with a question mark. I had a feeling that there might be a legal problem for Trump. This was happening. I was looking on January 4th. And I wondered if there was going to be an inauguration. But a week later, his felonies were affirmed. Yet there was no demand for him to report to a jail or prison. So I thought that was good. I cleared this scene and repeated the question, January 15 to February 15. And in the scene that opened, I saw a mountain, a bunch of mountains actually, and a volcano. There was a big cloud above it, and there was hot lava running down the sides into the water. There was some water nearby, causing a lot of steam and big disruption in the water. I heard the words volcano, edge of the river or sea, and tsunami. I couldn't tell where this was happening, but I wondered if it was in Italy. I had the impression that people had died because of the volcanic eruption. So it must be near a population. We'll see. So I cleared the volcano scene and then repeated the question, January 15 to February 15. And in the scene that opened, I immediately saw something that looked like a flying saucer. I heard the words, UFOs, not drones. And I cleared this thought, thinking, so we're not done with the UFO and drone thing? Probably not. Next, I asked, what is the financial system doing between January 15th and February 15th? And the scene that opened was a city street with big buildings. The street was empty. There were no people or cars. And there was this dollar bill just swinging back and forth, you know, like you would watch a swing on a playground moving back and forth in the wind. Then I saw, you know, that big sculpture of a bull that symbolizes Wall Street. That sculpture, its head was down as if very dejected or depressed, and its tail was down too. And I had the impression that the Wall Street bull is tired, head down, air of decompression, not depression, decompression, almost defeat, still going, but no vigor. Just as I was about to erase that scene, I saw a door that was partway open, maybe about a foot and a half. Over the door where the exit sign would normally be, there was a sign that had two letters on it, B-R. Through the door, I could see that the room was filled with gold coins, stacked about 4 feet high. It reminded me of what you might see when you open a treasure vault. And I had the impression that I was not supposed to know about the gold, that it was supposed to be hidden. And I thought the word decompression was an odd word to come up with that scene, but I left it as I heard it. You know, I would have expected the word depression, not decompression. So anyway, I left it alone. We'll see what happens. The next day, January 5th, all of those scenes I just talked about, I was looking at on January 4th. The next day, January 5th, I did a little more looking and I changed my first question to what's happening between now and May 2025. And the first thing I saw was a road. It was a small road. It wasn't a big highway. A road that was isolated and running up through the trees. The road was in the mountains or some hills. And then I saw a crew with ropes and equipment moving along the road. They were mostly on foot. I had the impression also of great sorrow, a disaster. And then I was looking around. I could see pieces of metal and many other things laying around. Someone in the crew picked up a ring that was very significant, and the colors blue and white came to me. I'm not sure why I saw the blue and white, but I left that scene feeling upset and apprehensive, as if something really awful was going to happen that shouldn't have happened. So I was seeing that on January 5th. So I cleared the disaster scene in the hills and repeated the question, what's happening between now and May? And in the scene that unfolded, I was in an area of very, very rundown houses. I was looking at like the line where the basement windows are right above the ground. I could see basement windows where several pairs of eyes were looking back at me out of the darkness of those windows. It was kind of spooky. The place reminded me of some neighborhoods in Detroit that I've seen, but I had the feeling of being on the East Coast in a DC suburb. It was dark, and I had the impression that this was a meeting place for planning some type of operation that was destructive or subversive. And then the words surveillance and connection to congressmen came to me. And that congressman was singular. I wondered what type of operation was happening there and if it had anything to do with trafficking. But I also felt that someone, maybe several someones, were trapped in the basement. At that point, I decided I was getting ahead of myself by going to look at May, or things happening between January 5th and May. And I decided to back up and just look at January and February. So at that point, the question became, what is happening with the internet, government, and Trump between now and the end of February 2025? In the first scene that opened regarding the internet, I heard the words, internet okay. In the next scene regarding government, I saw like a spinning top, you know, one of those toys that children play with. And I heard the words, struggles, people uncertain it will hold, shock, and immigration deporters. Immigration deporters. Also, as I watched that spinning top, it looked like it was just about to fall over because it was slowing down too much. And I also heard the question, what is real? And then the last scene regarding Trump, I heard the question, where's Trump? I could not find him. So that was the end of my looking on January 5th. Number 6, I want to share something that came across my radar recently. And to do that, I need to tell a bit of a story here. A few years ago, I read a comprehensive article somewhere. I don't remember where. I looked for it. I couldn't find it. Maybe it was in New Dawn magazine or something online. But it was a story about a European military man from either Germany or Austria who was excellent at training troops to fight using big artillery. He did such a good job that he was invited to Japan to teach the Japanese army how to fight with big artillery. So he went to Japan, and while there, he met a group of people who called themselves the Green Men. This group was very secretive and also said to be quite telepathic. They maintained something of an underground presence and they asked the European military man to go back to Europe to work with a fellow named Hitler. The Green Men wanted to capture all of Europe and Asia, with Japan controlling the East and Germany controlling the West. After training the Japanese troops, the military specialists returned to Europe, began to work with Hitler, and not too long after that, military or World War II started. So my point in sharing this is not so much about World War as it is about the group known as the Green Men. I say this because when I first read about that group, my intuition antennas shot up, alerting me that there was something very unique, unsettling, and problematic about them. I didn't have any logical reason for thinking that, and I didn't have any information that would back up the intuition, but I was concerned. Since I am well aware that there has been a centuries-long effort to take over the planet, and that this effort was being spearheaded by a combination of alien beings and twisted sociopathic humans working with them, working with the aliens, I put the information into suspension in my mental filing cabinet, and I left it there. So fast forward to today. I was reading about the political uproar going on in Austria because of the resignation of Karl Nehammer. And I happened to see a list of political parties vying for control there in Austria. One of them was the Green Party. I had just recently, like a day or so before that, heard someone in Australia talking about the Greens there. And my thought was, oh, wow, Austria has a Green Party too. I had also read about a Green/EFA party or group, maybe in England, and I thought that was quite a coincidence. And then suddenly, I had a feeling that something was amiss. It was that same kind of feeling that I had when I read about the Green Men in Japan. So this was greatly complicated by a further intuition that had to do with, quote, a hidden connection to the Nazis. And I don't yet know why this Nazi connection would come up. So anyway, I started doing a little research and discovered something I think we should pay attention to, which is why I'm bringing this up. It turns out that lots of countries have a Green Party. There is even an organization called the Global Greens, and it has 4 branches: the Asia Pacific Greens Federation, the European Green Party, the Federation of Green Parties of Africa, and the Federation of Green Parties of the Americas. These global Greens groups have been meeting since 2001, here and there around the planet, about every 4 or 5 years. And their agenda is, listen up, democracy, nonviolence, social justice, sustainability, diversity, and ecology. So I read this as democracy means whoever's in power has all the say. Nonviolence means no guns for anyone except those in power. Social justice means you will conform to social credit scoring or starve. And there will be no consideration of unique or extenuating circumstances. Everybody is treated the same. Sustainability is read as, yeah, the masses will work to sustain those in power. Diversity means gender, age, and race will be the deciding factors in decision-making, regardless of interests, capabilities, or suitability. And ecology means everyone will be crowded into smart cities so those in power can save the planet for themselves. So, countries with active global Greens members in the government include the following. In the Americas, Argentina, Belize, Bolivia, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, French Guiana, Guatemala, Mexico, Nicaragua, Peru, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Venezuela, the United States, and Uruguay. In the Asia-Pacific group, Australia, Bangladesh, India, Fiji, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Israel, Japan, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Lebanon, Malaysia, Mongolia, Nepal, New Zealand, Pakistan, the Philippines, the Solomon Islands, South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, and Uzbekistan are all countries that have green parties. In the Africa Federation, countries that belong to the green parties are Algeria, Angola, Burkina Faso, Burundi, the Central African Republic, Chad, Cameroon, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Egypt, Gabon, Ghana, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Ivory Coast, Kenya, Madagascar, Mali, Mauritius, Morocco, Mozambique, Nigeria, Rwanda, Sao Tome and Principe, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Africa, Togo, Tunisia, Uganda, and Zambia. And in the European Greens, we have Albania, Andorra, Austria, Armenia, Belarus, Belgium, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, the Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Georgia, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Iceland, Ireland, Italy, the Isle of Man, Kosovo, Latvia, Liechtenstein, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Moldova, Montenegro, the Netherlands, North Macedonia, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Russia, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, Ukraine, England, Wales, North Ireland, and Scotland. That's like a third of the countries of the world. It's like 75 or 80 countries. The reason I bring this up is because when I ask the question, wow, why are there so many countries having green parties? The answer that came was because this is part of the next step in setting up the New World Order. This is the way they are taking over the planet, getting complete control of the population, and instituting a technocratic, transhuman government. They have not given up trying to stop Trump and populism. However, they have diversified their approach and are coming at it from a quieter, sneakier direction. They think this approach will be harder for people to argue against because opponents can be accused of not supporting Mother Earth or a peaceful population. I think we will be seeing a slightly quieter period here, but I don't think we should be fooled. Is this why a lot of the media opposition to Donald Trump died down when he was elected? Because the New World Order effort was taking a new turn, trying a new tack? Number 7. For a while after the November election, I was seeing an intense effort by the cabal to remove Donald Trump before he was inaugurated. I saw attempts to bribe somebody guarding Trump, but that fell through. Then there was talk of causing someone close to Trump, like a friend of his, to have some kind of serious legal trouble and offer them the needed money to cover legal fees in return for betrayal of Trump. But they didn't think there would be time to pull this off because the courts moved too slowly. Then they thought about killing someone guarding Trump in order to face a change of guard, but they didn't have a good way to get their replacement guard in a position to be seriously considered. So now the plan has shifted a little. They're still hoping to get a chance to assassinate him, but since the real Trump is rarely seen in public, and the Trump we see is often a duplicate, the cabal wants to use the momentum generated by the real Trump. They have had a very difficult time trying to get to the real guy. So as a backup plan, they are thinking, they're playing with the idea that it might be possible to keep the duplicate in place and control him completely while making it really risky and difficult for the real Trump to come out in public or step into the role of president. This would create big confusion if the duplicate were forced to make a decision or issue an executive order and the real Trump contradicted it. However, creating confusion is always the first step in getting to dominance. So we may have a bigger discernment challenge coming than we are used to having. Pay attention to the little things. Number 8. We have another Paradise, California, Lahaina, Hawaii, and Quebec wildfire situation. This one in Los Angeles. The destruction of Palisades and other expensive and once beautiful areas will probably have lots of rationalizations, reasons, explanations, etc. But what has happened there struck me instantly as an attempt to get rid of some kind of evidence. I don't know what that evidence was about, but the fact that it came to me as getting rid of evidence, when evidence is something usually associated with a crime, tells me that something criminal was going on there, and this really makes me quite sad. So many people now homeless. I don't know who is promoting or starting these fires, but at some point, we are going to have to face them, and the fact that we are being attacked in ways that allow for as much plausible deniability as they can muster, and with every intent to blame it on Mother Nature. Mother Nature is doing the job. She's burning things, but she has been harnessed and manipulated to target certain areas. If you look at just the surface of the whole situation, you see a dry climate, annual fire worries, the Santa Ana wind, which is a every year thing, firefighters running out of water, and politicians apologizing or blaming. My attitude is that our political leaders are put in the positions they are in to manage the communities they lead. This means handling everything from road repair, crime, and zoning to electricity, preparedness, and water supply. President Franklin D. Roosevelt was once quoted as saying, "In politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, it was planned that way." Another interesting quote from The Unseen Hand, Introduction to the Conspiratorial View of History, says, "The corrupting nature of the pursuit of power explains why the moral mind of the individual who neither desires power over others nor understands the desire for such power cannot fathom why power seekers would want to create human misery through wars, depressions, and revolutions." In other words, the conspirators are successful because the moral citizen cannot accept the conclusion that other individuals would actually wish to create incredibly destructive acts against their fellow citizens. And that is still the attitude of many people today. They cannot believe that anyone would want to hurt them, so they're not looking around, they're not looking ahead, they're never prepared, and they don't take any steps to stop, let alone prevent, bad people from doing bad things. If you look with a candid eye, you'll notice that in the US, the areas being attacked are mostly around the edges, because the goal is to drive people into the center of the country. Hurricanes, fires, floods, tsunamis, and earthquakes become some pretty powerful tools in the hands of unscrupulous people. Don't be fooled. Be aware. And be aware that everything has some form of consciousness. Consciousness is based in cooperation. So communicate with the wind, the rain, the earth, and fire. Set up a relationship with these forms of intelligent energy. You might need that relationship someday. And in the meantime, instead of running out of water, why haven't we developed systems that use frequencies to put out the fires? We've all seen the demonstrations of fires just going out. They just go out when low frequency sound is projected toward them. What are we waiting for? In a new world, every house, car, and office building can be built with seriously fire-resistant materials and sound projectors to be used as fire extinguishers. Number 9. Speaking of fires and floods, I just want to mention that in looking through the 2025 year ahead, it just looked like one thing after another was thrown at the U.S. population. All of the weather tools mentioned above, hurricanes, floods, fires, tsunamis, earthquakes, along with financial uproar, political chaos, assassinations, and ET issues, seem to be coming at people one right after another, faster than they could adjust. I hope this is not the case, but if it is, try to stay calm and keep a clear head. Stay centered. You can do it. We can all do it. Number 10, the drone issue. The drone issue was a big deal last month and then seemed to die back quite a bit. But it looks like they're going to return at the end of this month. The drones strike me as the first act in a really serious and desperate attempt to slide the next piece of legislation into place that will then be used to limit people and get more control of space, including the space right above your head and above your house. because they don't want us using drones to discover immigrant fighter camps or weapons or troop movements, or to see what is really happening in locations where natural disasters are being reported and then mishandled by government or other federal groups. Number 11. I noted in the Epoch Times that 134 Chinese military firms are working in the U.S. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one to think this is not a very good idea. Do you remember the Chinese plan to conquer the U.S.? The initial part of the plan involved a 10-year step-by-quiet-step effort to take over one major U.S. industry each year for 10 years until everything was made in China and the U.S. would be forced to buy from them. Gradually, all the major U.S. industries moved to China. Steel, iron, foods, then clothing, then cars, semiconductors, computers, phones, parts for military equipment, etc., etc. At the end of 10 years, they had it all. In the past, I have reported that I thought the deep state was behind this plan, and moving everything to China would weaken the U.S. tremendously because we would no longer be self-sufficient. Once the U.S. had fallen, they were then going to collapse China's government. The goal, the deep state goal, was to rule the world from the Ukraine area, which has long been known and called the heart of the world, as well as the breadbasket of the world. It's mostly the breadbasket of Asia and Europe, but this bunch of oligarchs planned on keeping everything under control by drastically reducing the number of people and using technology and transhumanism to manage us. So now we have an uncounted number of Chinese military-age men that just walked into the U.S. across the southern border, and 134 Chinese military firms working here. It looks like the Cabal is still supporting gullible China as China works to take us down and pursue their dream of realizing the world, not realizing that they are next on the chopping block. Number 12. Donald Trump has been talking about Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States, and he wants to annex Greenland. So Russia or China can't use it to build military bases and park weapons there. Isn't it ironic that the U.S. is suddenly worried about the possibility of China or Russia setting up a military presence too close to our borders? Isn't that the same issue that is central to the war in Ukraine? Russia doesn't want the U.S., Europe, or NATO to build bases or park weapons right on the borders of Russia. Trump is also talking as if Panama should give back the Panama Canal. The issue is supposedly that Panama is charging too much, but the real issue is that the Chinese have more influence in Panama than the U.S. does. What I see when I watch this jockeying for position is a hidden agenda that begins the restructuring of the world that has been waiting in the wings for at least a few decades. The North American Union kind of thing. The New World Order plan includes creating 3 political economic zones around the planet. One is the Americas, which would include the North American Union and the South American Union, with the Central American countries kind of absorbed either into the North or the South. Another is the Euro-African Union, and the third is the Asian-Australian Union. The New World Order boys feel this is the perfect setup for the wars of the future, the economies of the future, and the governments of the future. Number 13. Things have been somewhat rocky over the past 5 years, and now we're seeing some pretty serious fallout as chaos envelops the governments in Germany, Austria, the US, Canada, and other countries. The breakdown of nations will precede the breakup of those nations. Take heart. You, we, all of us are the stabilizing forces in the world. Hang on to your common sense and hold a little bit of love to top it off. Number 14. I don't usually talk about books, but I'm going to mention the book Supergut by Dr. William Davis, MD. One of my subscribers, or maybe a student, suggested this to me, and I got it and was blown away by it. There are videos all over the web talking with Dr. Davis discussing his information, showing people how to make the yogurt he describes. So this is not really new, but I wanted to add my voice to what he is saying because it is so important. We need to restore the health and vitality of American people. When we started pumping 70 different kinds of vaccines into babies and children, we started destroying the diverse colonies of bacteria that need to be in the gut. Since everything is frequency, and frequency is consciousness, we ended up seriously messing up the frequencies provided by the bacteria in the gut, which resulted in what we call ADHD and autism. Those who survived the early vaccines without damage then went on to eat the common foods available in our world: low-fat, sugared, and ultra-processed everything. Much of it not even really food, just pretty chemicals to fill the stomach. This further deranged the gut, the microbiome. So here we are, after decades of bad medicine and bad food. We are tired, sickly, irritable, unable to see clearly, hear clearly, think clearly, or act in a purposeful and coherent manner. Why? Because the bacteria that contribute to a clear, active, and energetic body-mind system are not there to contribute. Science is slowly and steadily uncovering the secrets we need to know in order to live wisely and well and have fun doing so. This is one of those secrets revealed. It's about diversity. And I'm not talking about the stupid sort of artificial diversity pushed by governments, media, and corporations these past 5 years. I'm talking about a wide array of strains of bacteria, including probiotic seed forms that create other strains that make whole families of bacteria. You need a diverse population of bacteria in your gut. Can I say it again? You need a diverse population of bacteria in your gut. That is where energy, creativity, thoughtfulness, patience, persistence, generosity, inclusiveness, inventiveness, and clarity come from. The good news in all of this is that we are slowly beginning to recover from years of bad advice and information about how to get healthy and stay healthy. Woohoo! It's about time. And number 15. Cliff High often talks about secrets being revealed as governments break down and become ineffective. So I was thinking about the idea of secrets revealed, and I have always thought of these as secrets having to do with government corruption. But as I look at the incoming inauguration and president, it looks as though the secrets revealed are much more than a few secrets about ETs or government corruption. I think the biggest secrets are going to be about history, about energy and technology, about religion, medicine, and all sorts of truths about us humans. I think Bix Weir is spot on about what has been hiding in the Grand Canyon. As these sectors reveal their secrets, the information will often excite and encourage us. So don't be discouraged if you see the old world coming apart. Instead, ask yourself, if I had a chance to completely rewrite or redo my life, what would I do? How would I set things up? Be bold, although you don't always have to do something drastic. Sometimes life only needs a tweak to make it sweet. We may be moving into a period where a lot of things come apart, and we have to be really watchful about what's coming together. But we can use this time to redesign our lives to be so much more satisfying than they were before. Remember Goethe's advice. Whatever you can do or dream, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. So that's it for this look-see. For those who are watching or listening for the first time, the look-see is a brief look at what's happening in our world and where the big trends are headed. Reality is not fixed. It's very dynamic, and it changes according to what we are doing with our consciousness. Nothing becomes real until we make it real. We make a choice, or we take some kind of action, or put something together, or take something apart. Those decisive actions are what determine the path and the outcome. And of course, once we set something in motion, it takes a lot to make a change or get things going in another direction. So that's why you want to look ahead. If you don't like what you see coming, you can make appropriate changes in a timely way, or at least prepare for what looks inevitable. If we see something we like, we can put some conscious attention on that outcome and help it along. It's important to look ahead and assess what's happening and where we are going, so we know whether we need to do something different or not. Thank you so much for listening. Keep your wits about you, and we'll see you in February.